From the Ticats Audio Network, this is the Ticats This Week with RJ Broadhead and Luke Tasker.
The Tiger Cats are coming off a win. They sit at 5-7 and third place in the East Division. Welcome to Ticats This Week. I'm RJ Broadhead. He is Luke Tasker. So 2/3 through the season, Luke, and the record's 5-7. I know Tiger Cats would like it to be above 500, but when you compare it to last year, they were 3-9 at this point. So 5-7, one win back of Montreal at this point. What's your assessment on the first 2/3?
Well, it's getting more exciting to watch this team as the season goes on. They look very different in a lot of ways. The game in Ottawa was encouraging. You know, you see some resilience that early in this season, you know, the Ticats were one of those teams where the perfect storm, it seemed like, had to happen for the win to get the win. You know, a little bit of adversity here or there, and it was really hard to overcome that. Now you see a team that's kind of battling through some wins, and in Ottawa and in BC were resounding victories. So more and more excitement building. It's getting more fun to watch, and I think Ticat fans should be hopeful right now at this point in the season. Still, certainly a chance at the playoffs and a team that's getting better.
Do you feel the Tiger Cats have to beat a team like Winnipeg for fans to really believe? I have heard some fans say, well, 3 of their 5 wins have been against Ottawa, beat Edmonton when they hadn't won. That game against BC was terrific, but they have to find a way to beat a team like Winnipeg on Saturday, don't they? Yeah,
it's just that BC, you know, I don't want to write that off either. That was out in Vancouver, and they are a very good team. The Lions are, I mean. But Winnipeg and, you know, especially, you know, this sort of franchise and Winnipeg's history and its, you know, relation and, you know, recent history with the Ticats, including 2 Grey Cups, it is sort of an emotional one, and it would be a really, it would be sort of a season-changing win again to win against Winnipeg. But I kind of said that again about BC and the win in Ottawa. Those were both sort of season-defining, and those feel great. And so, you know, it's hard. You can't hang your hat on one game. If they take a loss and then bounce back, they're still going to find themselves in the mix. But there's no doubt how positive a win at home would be. And too often we've seen the Ticats struggle at home. You know, it just they haven't come easily at Tim Hortons Field for whatever reason. But a win against a very good Winnipeg team, and now you look very different as you chase down Montreal and Toronto.
I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been a lot of Tiger Cats first down brought to you by Active Green and Ross. The Tiger Cats keep it rolling. It's been said a lot lately.
By you.
Yes, but 3 straight games, Tiger Cats have had 20 or more first downs. What's interesting about that is in their first 9 games, they only had 2 games where they had 20 first downs or more. So they're really starting to string some drives together. They're putting up points, I think, in their last 3 games, 42 points and 5 touchdowns in the fourth quarter. They're averaging over 27 points a game in their last 3 games. If you do that, you'll win a lot of football games. So what are you liking from this offense lately?
Well, I think the easy place to start is Taylor Powell. I mean, it was just heartbreak after heartbreak. The first half of this season, watching different quarterbacks get hurt repeatedly. Bo Levi Mitchell coming back into the lineup, getting hurt. Matt Schultz in and out, taking a really bad, what looked like a really bad injury in Edmonton. That lands on a very young Taylor Powell taking over. And now you've mentioned one of the metrics that is for offensive production, first downs. That started to look really different now as Taylor Powell has gotten comfortable and that offense has started to continue to take shape. And you have, of course, Scott Mavich taking over. And so, again, mid-season, you have sort of this interruption of now you've got sort of, you know, redefining an offense that was that you had been working on. And, you know, now they're kind of finding some legs here. And Taylor Powell, I don't know. I'm very excited to watch more of him this season. And of course, you know, we'll see how long he's going to be behind center if you've got 2 big CFL names healing as fast as they can. But
yeah.
But Taylor Powell, his ability to protect the football for the most part, and now coming off of this win in Ottawa, his ability to put it in the end zone, very promising.
Couple of interesting things. Bo Levi Mitchell, the only game he's finished as Tiger Cat was game 1 against Winnipeg. The other 2 games he got hurt. Matt Schultz now has been elevated to QB2, so he is the backup behind Taylor Powell, which is an indication. We saw it last game when Powell got hurt and had to miss a play. Kai Loxley came in, but I know I was wondering, will they go with Schultz? But he was QB3, so now he's been elevated, so he'll be the guy. So he has to be close. And it is interesting, and it's a good problem to have. Taylor Powell seems to be getting better every week, coming off a career-high 326 yards passing, another 3 touchdowns in the game, back-to-back games with 3 touchdowns, and no turnovers. There's no secret. When you don't turn the ball over, you have a good chance of winning. It's happened twice in the last 3 games. Tiger Cats have won both of those games. I remember talking to Scott Milanovich when he got here, Luke, and that was the first thing he said. We turn the ball over too much. We have to limit that. And that message has gotten through. It's not a secret. You don't turn the ball over, you're going to win a football game.
Yeah, and it seems like a message that Taylor Powell internalized right away in his career, and smartly. So I think it's a problem that so many quarterbacks have to overcome, and then they can start getting better at their reads and quicker at making decisions and stuff. But the first thing they have to do is just hold on to the football. I just love watching a quarterback who is very intent and serious about ball security. And Scott Milanovich wasn't kidding. That was one of the first things that you noticed was limiting turnovers and slowly progressing in the right direction of the turnover ratio throughout a season. And then we started to see their pass game sort of blossom and develop, and some of these receivers start getting involved with Taylor Powell. So, I'm pretty hopeful as to see more of that. We did see too many sacks early on in Taylor Powell is what I mean, and that's been on the right pathway as well, and that combination of an offensive line working with a quarterback to take advantage of all the time you have. Part of the problem with in the passing game is a quarterback has to feel comfortable for as long as he can feel comfortable, but everyone's going to at some point tuck and try to find a way to escape if they can. Some of the best quarterbacks can stand in there until there's almost no room around them, but in a sense they're still protected, right? It's a sort of a trust in a sort of a living, breathing system in the quarterback pocket is, and so I'll be interested to see if that trend can continue on the right path, which it has been for since some of those early games with there was a time where we saw 7 sacks on Taylor Powell.
Yes, he has limited that, and he's developed some real chemistry with Tim Whitehot. I've changed his name to Tim Whitehot because
perfect timing too. Finally,
he's scorching out there. 180 yards receiving, 4 touchdowns in his last 3 games. We talked about Taylor Powell in that long pass. He had 2 long passes to explosive plays to Tim White. Are you seeing anything different from Tim White? He had that little lull a few games ago, but he's absolutely white hot right now.
Yes. Really impressive 2 games in a row here. He actually had a great performance at the Labor Day Classic, which, of course, was a heartbreaking loss for the Ticats. But if I had to point out a thing about his game, a technique kind of thing about his game, I've been really impressed with his catches in traffic. He's been making some catches when he is being disrupted, when he's running in between defenders. Big hit risk type of catches. We've seen him come down with the football very well. He's always tracked down the long ball pretty good, and we're seeing that on those attempts. But it's a progression of a guy who's a speedster, a track runner, into a route runner, and we're just seeing him really develop into a very, very good receiver.
How about the Tiger Cats offense? In the red zone in the last 2 games, they've gone 6 for 7. They're starting to produce in the score zone. Yeah,
totally different than what we were seeing early this year. Limited attempts in the score zone early on, but then even when they got down there, I mean, how many times did we see in the first half of the season a penalty right when they entered, that 20, 15-yard line area. So you got a 1st and 10, and you are pressing, and all of a sudden now you're dealing with a 1st and 20 on the 25, or a 1st and 15 on the 20. Really disheartening and frustrating, and we saw it countless times. At times we've seen turnovers in the score zone, and the execution is there. Part of that also is the increase of James Butler and the balance between the run and the pass that the Ticats have struck here, and they've just been able to be more efficient, more productive, and it seems like there's some confidence when they get down there as opposed to some hesitancy.
You mentioned James Butler. It's kind of a comforting feeling. He didn't have his best statistical game against Ottawa, but the Tiger Cats still won, and he's such a good player. You know he's going to put up numbers down the road. So I kind of get a comforting feeling that the Tiger Cats can win when he doesn't have his best game. So when he does have his best game, they're going to win.
It feels that way, doesn't it?
Together, yeah.
Yeah, and BC, he was just it was so explosive and such a difference maker. And I still would say, RJ, that part of the struggle early in the season was you either had a good run game or a good pass game in a given football game, and it wasn't like a little bit of both, or some good. It was like the whole team total rushing yards were 30, but you passed pretty well, or the inverse. James Butler had over 100, but you couldn't put the ball in the end zone and all that. So I think we're seeing a little more of a back and forth and some complementary running and passing. But I hope that you see that increase as well, where truly you have the ability to get the first down both on the ground and in the passing game. Toronto and Winnipeg are two teams, great examples of that, where they really have weapons and the ability to move the chains, both running and passing. And briefly, we touched about the score zone for the Ticats. And that's getting better. 6 out of 7, I think you said. I mean, that's a really good, impressive stat. That's a great conversion percentage as you get into the score zone. The inverse of that, defensively, we've seen some unbelievable stops in the score zone, including, a legendary stop that started with the Stavros Katsantonis tackle, followed by 3 short down stops in Ottawa. So I think you've got a team that's showing its teeth and is resilient right now.
Yeah, 4 takeaways in that game for the Tiger Cats defense. Stavros Katsantonis had an interception, a fumble recovery. Ted Laurent or Casey Sales, they were both hugging the football on the Simone Lawrence quarterback sack where he stripped the ball from Crum. That kind of sealed it, and of course that goal line stand was unbelievable. They've been really good with those short yardage plays. Even going back to the BC game, on the opening drive of the game, BC goes for it, and 3rd down they get a stop, and you just felt the whole momentum change.
Yeah, absolutely. And they had another one later in the game, a longer attempt that the Ticat defense shut down as well. I don't know. I just can't help but think of Simone Lawrence. You just see him all over the field, and you can sense his energy even from our booth there broadcasting, RJ, and it's not just Simone, of course, but that energy and the players around him, they've got a good thing going.
Yeah, you follow the leader, and he's definitely the leader and leading by example. I know we asked him, and you're putting up some big numbers lately. He says it's just time. It's that time of the season. Like matter of fact, like it's going to happen. I'm Simone Lawrence. I make plays, and he does. Yeah. So Winnipeg, let's dig into this a little bit. They're coming off a massive win against Saskatchewan, and it tells me what kind of team they are. A couple of their losses. They lost to BC in week 3. The next time they played BC, they beat them 50-14. They lost to Saskatchewan on Labor Day. Then last week, they beat them 50-6. They scored a touchdown on every possession in the first half. Like, they avenge those losses. Tiger Cats lost to Winnipeg in week 1. This is a very important game. You've played against the majority of this Winnipeg defense, so you know them pretty well. It's a great football team again. They haven't changed a lot over the first few years, and we kind of saw that in game 1. Like, they were clicking, the chemistry was there, and the Tiger Cats were just trying to get used to each other, it seemed.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, you did see it's a result of a culture that you see when you watch that, the sort of the vengeance coming back after a loss. And you could tell that week 3 loss to BC, Winnipeg just wasn't right. Like didn't feel right with them, didn't sit right. They thought they were a better team, and it turns out that they were in the end. And yeah, they do. They have a culture that is a winning one. It's funny. It makes you think back. This has been building this version of Winnipeg football in 2019. Beating us in the Grey Cup there, and then really hitting the scene and having a great season the following year, consecutive Grey Cups, and it was dominant last year, and then they lost to Toronto. And you think, like, this is an interesting storyline, these Blue Bombers and the wins that they've got, and then the Grey Cup that slipped away from them, and it just is sort of a CFL reminder about what could still come in this season. It just is. It's been a Winnipeg, Toronto, and BC CFL this year. I mean, those teams have been at the top since the start and are playing very, very good football. And oftentimes that's just not the way that it ends up falling in the end, at the end of November. And so, the Ticats are all you can say is that they are on the right trajectory towards what it takes to be a Grey Cup team.
Yeah, Winnipeg, no weaknesses, Luke. The net offense, they're number one. They've allowed the fewest net offense against in the CFL. Tiger Cats are 7th and 8th in those categories, and they dug themselves a hole statistically at the start of the season, and it seems like they're starting to correct that a bit. But Winnipeg's already clinched a playoff spot. Is that maybe a good thing for the Tiger Cats going into this game? Yeah,
I'd say so. Sometimes that can give you some energy, meaning from the Winnipeg side. That sometimes you get a little boost on that. You can play free, knowing that it's sort of locked in there. But at the same time, you could imagine a road trip, locked in the playoffs and a road trip. Still a lot of time until those playoff games that matter, and maybe you catch a few guys slightly off guard or maybe not totally in the zone, as we say. And so you never know. And the Ticats have every reason and are hungry to continue fighting. So. Hard to say, very subjective there, and goes player by player and team by team. Yeah. But I would say it's probably not a bad thing.
Yeah, desperation is something the Tiger Cats still have, trying to get into the playoffs, and we know that's going to be a fight right to the end. And Winnipeg maybe doesn't have as much desperation. Tiger Cats are coming off that win against Ottawa, Luke, where they had 3 days rest. Are you worried they've had too much rest this week?
Apparently they do best on a half week. Boy, I would think they took a real deep breath and were able to take an extra ice bath and an extra day off. Probably not a grinding week of practice this week, as they're sort of still coming out of that. But no, more film they can watch and more you can do, the better. So well timed, I think, to enter a Winnipeg game at home.
Some interesting things to talk about with the Tiger Cats depth chart. Richard Leonard, we saw him get injured in the last game. He's on the 1-game injured list. So Dexter Lawson Jr. comes in. Fraser Sopik is back. He had a fumble recovery in that first game against Winnipeg, so he'll be a nice addition. Dylan Wynn got hurt again, so that is unfortunate. He is out, but Jagarrett Davis is going to be back in the lineup. So he was traded, came back, didn't hear much of him, and now he's back. So, I don't know, you played with Jagarrett. He might be a little motivated here to make an impression back in the lineup.
Yes, I did. JG is you just never know. He may get a pair of sacks this game. Depends how much that defensive line is going to rotate, but he's back out there, and on game day, Jagarrett turns it on, and we'll see what it's like. And well, first of all, we'll see how much time he gets out there. I mean, it has been a very sort of rocky season for Jagarrett so far, with, like you mentioned, the almost trade, and that kind of stuff can be tough on a player too. Just I don't know, call it lifestyle changes, or off the field, I guess, stuff that weighs on you, but. It's sort of like all things are right now. He's on the field and has a chance to make a difference in the game, and I've seen him do it many times.
Yeah, all Tiger Cats fans have, and if he can get after the quarterback, that is fantastic. We'll wait and see how much he plays on Saturday. Offensive line is interesting, too, for the Tiger Cats. In the initial depth chart, Brandon Revenberg is at left tackle. Jacob Zott is at left guard. And then the fullback category has Sean Thomas Erlington, Felix Garon-Gauthier, Bailey Feltmate, and then offensive linemen Dayton Black and Joel Figueroa. What do you make of that configuration?
Well, I think it's a little bit of CFL-ery, just like I don't know what's going on here. They've got ratio issues to deal with, and I don't think that there is a serious or maybe substantial strategic move here. I don't know how much we're going to be seeing the 10-year left tackle veteran Joel Figueroa actually play fullback. I tend to doubt it, RJ, but I guarantee you're going to have a great call if he does line up back there. It'll be fun to listen to how you calling about number 61 lined up in a 3-point stance in the backfield. But we'll see. I tend to doubt it. I think we're going to see a lot of rotation between those offensive linemen.
All right, and just finally, Luke, what were you doing a year ago? 1 year ago, Game 13.
I believe was one of the most exciting games of the season against Winnipeg.
Yeah, isn't it something? Game 13 again.
Amazing.
Starting the final third of the year, it's Winnipeg in Hamilton. And that kind of was the springboard for the Tiger Cats in that 5-1 final 6-game stretch where they got themselves into the postseason. Can they do it again against Winnipeg?
Absolutely, they can. You've got to be able to ebb and flow a little bit with Winnipeg. I don't think you're gonna come out there and hold them to 3 points in the first half like you were able to do against Ottawa. So you're going to have to put points up, and that defense is going to have to make a few plays. If you can win the turnover ratio against Winnipeg and capitalize on offense, there's no reason they can't do a second year in a row have a home field upset against Winnipeg.
All right, we'll have you all set on the Ticats Audio Network before the game. That's Saturday morning. Be sure to listen to Ticats Game Day with Courtney Stephen and Mike Daly. Bubba O'Neill and Andy Fantus will have the pregame show at 3 o'clock. Luke and I will have the call at 4 o'clock. Hope to see you at Tim Hortons Field. If you can't be there, by all means, listen to the Ticats Audio Network. Listen.ticats.ca. Luke, I can't wait for this game, and maybe again it's a chance for the Tiger Cats to start this final third, get off to a good start. The one other thing here, Luke, that we should address, and we'll see what happens tonight. So we're doing this show on Friday. Montreal plays Toronto. If Toronto wins that game and the Tiger Cats can beat Winnipeg, all of a sudden it's a tie for second place. I know Montreal has the tiebreaker, but then next week on Ticats This Week, we're going to be talking about a home playoff game, the potential of it. Wouldn't that be something?
Unbelievable. And at least, like always, the battle at the end of the season starts to become what things are in your control and what things are out of your control. So if that scenario plays out, the Ticats have it all in control, to make it a home field playoff. So we'll see how things shake down.
All right, Luke, we'll see you Saturday.
See you, RJ. Looking forward to it.
Thanks for listening to Ticats This Week. Ticats play the Winnipeg Bluebombers 4 o'clock at Tim Hortons Field on Saturday.
It's been another busy week for your Hamilton Tiger Cats. Luke Tasker and RJ Broadhead have covered it all, and now we would like to hear from you. Email us anytime at gameday@ticats.ca. Subscribe to the Ticats Audio Network on Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.